Okay, so let's talk about the trouble with drawing glass and other reflective surfaces. When you look closely at reflective surfaces, you're going to notice lots of areas of really high contrast kind of values that seem to form abstract shapes, kind of like these squares that are in here and the linear shapes that are in here. And you have to draw all of this to make glass really look like glass. But you also have these weird abstract shapes that are in here, plus what's on the surface right here in this kind of clear area that's there. And then also what's through it and behind it and all over. It's the accurate depiction of those shapes and contrasts of value that will lead to the illusion of glass in your drawing. So you want to show all these weird little stripes and shapes that are abstract in your actual drawing. Draw them as shapes. Even this like rusty colored shape. Do you see that rusty colored shape that's right there? And this one that's here, it's actually a person, but that's okay. Anyway, you definitely want to draw all those things. The only way to get that right is to really closely observe the subject and trust what you see and put that information on your drawing surface even if it seems really strange. Like look at these weird stripes going back and forth, which is really just this texture that's in here in the lines of the light that are there. Glass is hard to draw for several reasons, and one of the reasons is that you can see through it. So you're not only drawing, and this is actually not a drawing, it's a painting, but in this painting you can actually see, I want to show you how many times you see the window reflection in here over and over and over again. Here it is for the fourth or fifth time. There's even some over here. I mean, it's just over and over. But you're also seeing what's through this. And look at how this is curving with the actual glass. So the book isn't like coming right out of the book. It's curving with the glass. And look at all these strange shapes that you see in here all over the place. Look at this edge of this vase that's here and how it gets broken and comes into the glass and then breaks again as it gets to the edge, and then all these blue shapes that you see. Even these little white stripes that are in here, what are those? You know, don't ask, just put them in there because that's what you're seeing. Trust it. There's also the upside down world of glass, and so if it's solid glass and or with water in it, you'll notice here's a building that's upside down across the street as I'm drinking. So you can see all sorts of upside down world and all sorts of glass. It's common. So you have to watch for that over and over again. And then notice here that it's upside down, and then here it's right side up. So also the shape of the actual form that you're drawing will flip the image right side up and wrong side up as you're drawing it as well. And look at all this information across the street. I can almost read, you know, Little China right here. So reflection is the wave front, is the change in direction of a wave front at the interface between the two different media so that the wave front returns the medium from which it originated. And then mirror, but not really a mirror image. Remember that a reflection isn't a mirror image from a printing plate. It's a very different angled view depending on what it is that you're looking at, and especially if it's a curved or distorted with the curve of the glass. And here's the famous Escher drawing, and you can see, like, look at all these curves. Even the ceiling above him is curved with the form that's here. You see there's really not any edges that aren't slightly curved in some way in here. Often you'll see the reverse and the flip-flopped images in it. So here I am with my red iPad, and you can see this is my skin and me in here. This is two over here. I don't know how I got so far, but there I am, there's my red iPad, there's the red iPad, there's the red iPad. You see it moving up and down and up and down and up and down in all these different directions, and you have to draw those shapes. This is hilarious because the distortion in reflective surface, and especially in glass and in metal, can be confusing. Your instinct is to straighten them up and make them look right, but you want to draw what you're actually seeing and not what you think about what it is that you're looking at. It seems odd, but you really need your completed drawing to make it you know, read right, it needs to be distorted and elongated the way that things are. So here's the landline that I'm always telling you about, the landline. And this is what happened to the landline in this shape. Notice that it's following thinner to wider, just like this entire shape is here. And you'll notice that it's also there, reflected upside down, and then right side up, and then upside down, and then right side up. It's like, ah, and then look at it get really skinny and pointed here. It's like, it's all over the place. So you have to watch for that stuff. So reflections happen all over the glass, inside as well as outside. So let's just look at where yellow is in the glass itself. Yellow, 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 yellow. And you see it all, even on this side. You just see it all over the place. So be aware that you have to really watch at and really look at what's there. And then remember your perspective and reflections. The main mistake made by beginners is to try to force the perspective effects that don't really exist. It's actually kind of almost just like that mirror, but not really. So this is correct, and then this is wrong. This is what most people try to do. They try to force the perspective that's here, but it's not really what you're observing. It's more like this. So pay attention to that. Now, if water is not flat, you have a different situation. I want you to look at this brown rope and how it goes into the water here, but it also comes across the water here, and then it's here in this wave, and then here in this wave, this wave. Everywhere that you see this brown tan color, that is this rope. So anytime you have undulating form of water or a plane that's undulating in some way, it's not really a plane if it's undulating, but you get what I'm saying, you're definitely going to have some differences in what you're observing. Even if it's just slightly tilted, you'll have, you know, an angled plane, then the reflection's going to depend on where the viewer is and its distortion from the angle that it's at. Remember also that you're seeing underneath of an object if it's sitting on a reflective surface, like if it's hovering above it. So like this grasshopper or katydid or whatever, you're actually seeing the bottom of that grasshopper. Texture is probably the hardest thing to do through glass, so it's the hardest thing to observe. And so it's one of the things that I always tell people, try and control your area as much as possible to not have as much texture and pattern and stuff, because it takes a good eye to see all that. Like the wood grain here as it's coming through here, do you see how it's wonky? Look at it warbling through here, and then how it's wonky. But if you just put a white sheet there or a black sheet there, it'd be so much easier. Look at these weird little striations that are over here and all this strange stuff. The house upside down, here's the house again. It's like just all in there, all over. Pay attention to your cast shadows because they reflect differently through water and glass. So especially if there's a textured surface to your glass, you're going to see a lot more variation of the cast shadow that's there with lights that are magnified from the glass itself. And then if you have a spun, hand spun glass that you're looking at, you're going to see these strange lines of light in your cast shadow. That's actually where the glass was turned, because this is a handmade glass that's been turned and blown. So be aware that sometimes you see these very strange things you really have to look for. And then you want to watch for light reflection based on the surface of the bottle, but also through the bottle and how it refracts off the other end. It kind of moves out on the other end. So you want to watch for that. You also want to watch for highlights and shadow and core shadow shapes as well. Here's a great example of, because in a glass you're seeing on the outside of the glass and on the inside front edge of the glass, and then on the inside back edge of the glass, and then on the outside edge of the back glass, as well as seeing through something. So you want to look for what I call the first and second, which are usually the easiest of your reflections and stuff to see. And then you want to look for the first, second, and third, and fourth. And then you want to watch for all the others. So you have you can see how they have a lot more, and you'll be surprised, but it's true that it's a little bit easier to light your glass on a dark cloth, but be aware of what color your toy is. There's also refraction. You know, I used to play this game with the girls when they were kids. Where did the penny go? Where we put a penny under the glass, so here it is over here, and then, you know, pour water in top of it, and it's like gone. It's magic, you know, and they'd be like, ooh, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, that's one penny you don't have for your bank because I'm evil. Anyway, I want you to kind of like, I always call it the broken pencil observation. It's easier to see if it's kind of in the middle. And so when you do your refraction, when you use your fork inside, you're going to, or whatever pencil or whatever it is that you do, if it's placed right in the center, it's just going to magnify it. But if you actually kind of put it a little bit to the side, you'll see it move away from the pencil completely. And here it gets a little bit harder to see because it becomes a part of the edge of the glass. So whatever object that you use for your refraction inside your glass, you definitely want to make sure that you put it kind of more in the middle if possible, a little to the side and to the middle. But here you can see refraction happening. Do you see how it's no longer aligned? No longer aligned on here. You can even see that look. If I were to draw this in reality, I'd even have to pay attention to her face and the glass tabletop that it's in. And be aware that any kind of texture on your glass also makes a difference in what you're really seeing. So you want to pay attention to that as well. So here's your spoon in each of those planes as it goes down. So my suggestion is to have a fairly simplistic glass. Don't go crazy for your first time because you really want to be able to see as much information as possible. And here's some drawings from the Drawing 2 class, but you can see they kind of even show the pencil going across the top of the water and then how the refraction happened. They forgot to do it here though, so watch for where you actually see it and where you don't. This is going to warble with the glass also. It's not going to stay straight, and neither will this one. It'll do what these and these are doing. Watch stripes and anything in the background that you see like that, because you're going to see it go wonky directions and turn and curve. A real challenge. A lot of artists like to do glass as a challenge, and they use a lot of striped surfaces just because of that. Pay attention to the thickness of the glass because that also makes a big difference in what you're seeing and how it catches light. You're going to see the thickness have some variation in it that you're going to have to draw. And then pay attention to the thickness of the bottom of the glass as well, because it's going to have those same things happen there too. Watch for any variations in the glass's shapes because they're going to catch light in a different way, and especially if it's thick glass, like this is just a solid piece of glass hanging out, whereas this is more translucent. And look at the thickness here because this is not manufactured in the same way as all other ink things are. You can see that it's got like a different thickness here than it does over here. But watch for all these strange shapes that happen in thickened areas of glass because you're going to see a lot more light catch there. Pay attention to surface writing. You don't really see all of the letters in here. You might be able to make out some of the shapes that you might see in there. So don't write it on there. Draw it the way you see it. Lots of artists challenge themselves with glass because it's a really good forcing of your observational skills, and so a lot of artists like to do that. Be careful though if you do. This is from the Painting 1 class. In my class, Sue Watras, I think, did this painting actually. And you'll notice that the axis line here is not the same as here on the bottle. So she's done this beautiful photorealistic piece. It's a really gorgeous piece, and she really observed really well, but you still have to watch for all that basic, stuff like your axis lines and stuff like that. And do you see how this is more angled than this is here? So make sure. Also, never have a bottle off angle. That just makes it look like you are drawing from a photograph or something. There's lots of different drawing tutorials, but we're going to be not doing full value rendering. We're doing a line drawing, and these are full value rendering. So but you can find lots of tutorials online for how to draw glass. But what we're going to be doing, we're going to be drawing contour line drawings in glass. And that means we're going to draw more like this. So you want to have your major, minor, interior, and exterior contours. You want to work in calligraphic line and also implied when you see it. And you're going to be drawing just shapes and lines with it. So you want to draw the shapes you see as linear, control your lines, let the lines width and weight and value describe how obviously you see something. So for example, and I know I talked about this in calligraphic line, but I'll just cover it one more time. You would not draw the line for here, which is a really pretty obvious area, the same width and the same darkness as you would here, because it's just not as noticeable. So you want to pay attention to where it's not noticeable and where it is more noticeable. And you want to pay attention to the line weights that you're using there. Notice that this line weight for this back one is changing pretty dramatically on its own. Pay attention to where you see things that might be best by implied line, like this light as it comes out this way might become implied right in here. So pay attention to those kind of things. How would I show how noticeable this shape is compared to this shape? So what about this shape? What about this dark shape and then the triangular shape around that? What about this line, which is just a reflection of this part back here and also down here? So here you can see someone who's just drawing the major contours, and here's someone who's trying to draw the major and the minor, but there's not a lot of variation of the values in there. So you want to have that happen when you start to work in glass. All right. See you next time.